What up, fight fans? I am Marisol Moran, and welcome to the first installment of the MMA Mailbag, where I answer all of your questions. And before I get into the questions for this very first installment, I do want to give a shout out to Storm Shadow, who commented underneath one of my videos about a month ago asking for a Q&A. At the time, I wasn't getting a lot of questions, so I deferred to a later time when I would get more of them. And luckily enough, it only took 1 month to actually get some momentum with the questions. So let's get into it. All right, so the first question is, do you think Tony is going to get the next title shot? And my answer is, he better. I believe I said this in a previous video where if he does not get the next title shot, there's going to be like a riot or something. I mean, at least a riot on Twitter. Because it just makes sense. Tony has gone through so much. He had a freak accident. The belt was just taken away from him. He didn't even actually lose it. It was just taken away from him, which just... Maybe that's something else to get into for another video, but come on, like he not only does he deserve it in that regard, but he is a phenomenally dominant fighter as well. I mean, we've seen what he did to Cowboy Cerrone recently and just in previous fights as well. He deserves it. He deserves this shot. And if it's given to somebody else for whatever crazy reason, that is absolutely ridiculous. I know that at this point, there's probably some worry as to whether or not he is going to get it because there hasn't been much talk about what's going on with that division lately. But we're probably not going to get a title defense by Khabib anytime soon, probably, I mean, ideally early next year. And if we do, it should be, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of many of the fans, it should be Tony versus Khabib. So if you follow me on Instagram, then you may already be aware or have an inkling as to what that may be, and that is literature. Literature is definitely my first love. I am that nerd on Instagram. On my stories, I've posted about Harry Potter, and I am a huge Potterhead. And yeah, go Ravenclaws. And if there are any Ravenclaws out there and you're nerdy like me, let me know. Let me know your Hogwarts house. I'm a proud Ravenclaw, which I have posted on in my Instagram stories. So there hasn't really been much talk about this as of late. I know that after he fought Thiago Santos, he talked about being back with another fight in December. If they're gonna make, what is it, December 14th? I think that's a Saturday. That's something that people have been talking about. If you look at the events on the UFC website, there isn't anything for that date. But if Jon Jones were to fight anyone next, whether it's the end of this year or even after, I think that Dominic Reyes makes the most sense. He's currently ranked number 4. And he is undefeated. He's 11-0. So that makes the most sense, given that the other people are Thiago Santos, that he just fought, and then Anthony Smith, which nobody really wants to see. So that definitely makes the most sense. So what first got me into MMA was just beginning to practice and train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And once I started doing that and trying out different martial arts, because I also took I did about a month of kickboxing and then just went into grappling. And that's where I've been ever since. So once I got into that and started training a bit more and really getting into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is when I became more interested in actually watching the UFC fights. And it wasn't until maybe 2 years after I actually started training that I really began paying attention to UFC fights. And the first fight that I ever watched on that fateful day was Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman 1. Now get this, guys. I had never watched a fight before. Never. I've known people who watched the fights. It might have been on the periphery, but I never really paid attention to it. The first fight I actually went out of my way to go watch, and it was hyped up because Anderson Silva is Anderson Silva. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be good. I'm going to watch Anderson Silva. It's going to be amazing. People love him. He's Anderson Silva. No. I got to watch Anderson Silva lose to Chris Weidman as my first fight. And then, so if you get that, there was a point in time when I first started watching MMA where I had never seen Anderson Silva win until recently. So that's crazy to even think about. But that was the first fight I ever saw. Silva versus Weidman 1. And then there was Silva versus Weidman 2, which was just devastating to witness and kind of gross. But overall, Silva versus Weidman 1 was the first fight I saw. The answer is no. If you count Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as a facet of MMA, then definitely not. Other sports just don't interest me. They never have. As you all just heard, I am a huge bookworm, spent my entire life just reading, essentially, and not really into any kind of sports. I've never really been athletic. So yeah, no, not until Jiu-Jitsu and MMA. So there you go. Okay, guys, you might hate me for this, but if anybody is going to beat Khabib, it is Tony Ferguson. I think I mentioned this in a previous video as well. If I did, I'll link it down below. I think the only person who actually has a shot at beating Khabib is Tony Ferguson. Why? Why do you think that is? Or why do I think that is? Guys, okay, Tony Ferguson isn't really one to just naturally go to the ground, although his ground game is crazy. So Khabib will do what he does best and take Tony Ferguson onto the ground. Now, as we witnessed with Dustin Poirier, Khabib can get caught. He got out of it. It was very intelligent the way he got out of it. It was amazing to see, but he did get caught. Tony Ferguson is a better grappler than Dustin Poirier. So, and he's just so unorthodox. He's really long, lanky, flexible. Like, that's just a horrible combination when it comes to grappling. And anybody who does jiu-jitsu will understand that really people with like long limbs and then they're flexible, like, no, just get off the mat. Like, no. So when we have that combination with his unorthodox style, with the fact that he is very well versed in grappling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, once he gets down to the ground with Khabib, if anybody has a shot at submitting Khabib, it's Tony Ferguson. So once that fight does take place, I will be so nervous because I don't want to see Khabib lose, but if anybody can do it, it's Tony Ferguson. Okay, so this next question was under my Khabib video that I came out with most recently. So it's a little bit aggressive, but I did want to address it either way. So the question is, there would be no you without such a provocative topic that shows enviness and hatred towards Khabib, and why don't you try to fight and beat Amanda Nunes or Valentina Shevchenko with a total domination? So, about the provocative topic of my video, I think that, yes, it was provocative. There are a lot of people who love Khabib. Quite frankly, I am one of those people. I am a Khabib fan. But I stand by my video and my topic of choice. I definitely think that Khabib would not be making the amount of money that he's making now without having fought Conor McGregor and defeated the superstar that is Conor McGregor. So, to be clear, in his fight against Al Iaquinta, being Khabib, made $500,000 just to show up and fight. He then goes on to fight Conor McGregor for the first time. And from making $500,000 just to show up, he then goes to fight Conor McGregor, where he earns $2 million, win or lose, just to fight Conor McGregor. That's just to show up. That's it. $2 million. He went from $500 fighting Al Iaquinta, great fighter, but not Conor McGregor status, making $500,000. Goes to fight Conor McGregor, makes $2 million. He defeats the superstar that is Conor McGregor, and then goes on to make $6 million in his next fight. He would not have made $6 million to fight Dustin Poirier without having defeated Conor McGregor first. That's just facts.